I want to welcome all of you to the international headquarters of the International Commission on Missing Persons for this very important event, where we will focus on the plight of families of the missing from Ukraine, of which we estimate there are a minimum of 30,000, and those numbers are growing every day. I don't want to take up your time because I want to allow our chair, Tom Miller, to take the floor immediately because we have quite a number of speeches. So I would like to welcome our chair, Ambassador Tom Miller, to take the floor. The floor is yours.
Listening to you in Ukrainian.
Okay.
Let's try this again. I want to welcome everyone here today, and I want to thank so many of you for joining us. People coming from all over the world, members of the press, of the media, and I think for you, what you'll hear today is very important. This is all about Ukraine, and it's all about the missing in Ukraine, and you'll hear from my colleagues, and you'll hear from some of the Ukrainians that this stuff is extremely important. Let me first offer a welcome to our colleagues from the Ukrainian authorities, some of whom are joining us online from Kiev, including Minister of Justice Denis Maliuska, and if I mispronounce these names, apologies ahead of time. Deputy Minister of Justice Andriy Hayachenko, Commissioner for Persons Missing in Special Circumstances Olga Kotinko. And right after my remarks, we're going to hear Minister Maliuska say a few words through a pre-recorded video. And then we're going to have Minister Counselor Anatoly Solovey, who's here at the Ukrainian Embassy here in The Hague, and he'll say a few words. Where are you, Anatoly? There you are. Okay, good. Okay. ICMP's mandate is to secure the cooperation of governments and others in locating missing persons stemming from war, human rights abuses, and other circumstances. And the circumstances are quite wide. It's not just war. It can be natural disasters. It can be people who've been trafficked. So our mandate is quite wide. In line with this mandate, our support to Ukraine is to ensure cooperation in investigating disappearances, regardless of the circumstances, to a level at which evidence can be provided to an international court. And Ambassador Rapp's going to say a bit more about this. And that's very, very important. We, as an organization in our 26 years, have provided expert testimony in international court proceedings involving war criminals. And so our standard of evidence is very, very high. The second area of cooperation for ICMP is with the families of the missing and with families of the missing and with civil society organizations. And we'll hear more about this. This is very, very important. Such cooperation is key to finding the heartbreaking, huge and growing number of missing persons. And I want to emphasize here, our cooperation with the government of Ukraine is extremely important, but our efforts go well beyond that. It's the families of the missing, it's civil society organizations. They are our constituency as much as governments. We want to help the responsible institutions operate as effectively in the present extremely demanding conditions. We can do this because we have the technical expertise, we have the track record, and we've been around for, as I said, more than a quarter century, 26 years, and we have experience. in helping countries locate and identify missing all around the world. It would take me longer than we have to identify all the programs that we have going right now. We started in the Balkans, and because of the advent of DNA technology and how quickly it advanced, the demand for our services went well beyond the Balkans, and now we're around the world. Getting back to Ukraine, we are in the process of completing a cooperation agreement with Ukraine, and this cooperation agreement will enable Ukraine to, or will enable ICMP to roll out a comprehensive program in partnership with the authorities. Now, I want to emphasize, and you know this already, we can't start work until we have this cooperation agreement. It is extremely essential that we move on this cooperation agreement. This will include launching an outreach program in Ukraine to reach almost 100,000 families of the missing to report missing relatives. And, you know, we always get a lot more families than we do missing because, you know, that's the nature of the game. Not everyone, sometimes families will report missing, and you know we can't find them. So this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be implementing a data collection campaign in Ukraine to facilitate DNA-based identification and to support investigations. We're going to be facilitating the engagement of families in the process, and in particular supporting the development of civil society platform comprising family associations and human rights civil society organizations. And I want to say that very carefully because when we talked to you guys before, this is not about us working just with the government. It's about us working with you guys. That's really, really important. We're going to be providing continuous learning and development opportunities in all aspects of the missing persons process for key domestic institutions. In other words, we are a learning organization. We don't just go in and do the stuff as kind of a contractor. We go in and share our learning experiences with the host country people, not just authorities. So that's what we'll be doing. We'll be sharing this with prosecutors, investigators, forensic experts, among others. We'll be strengthening the investigative capabilities of the bureaus of forensic medical expertise in Ukraine, and we'll be augmenting the data processing capabilities of within Ukraine by enabling access to ICMP's integrated data management system, IDEMS, I-D-E-M-S. And that's kind of one of the key characteristics. It all sounds very technical, but let me tell you, you need items to be able to do the job. We believe that this assistance program in Ukraine can yield very substantial and positive results because we have confidence in our Ukrainian partners. And the rest of you will see this today when you meet these phenomenal Ukrainian women who we had the chance to interact with earlier. And we're building a partnership because we believe this will justify their confidence in us. In the midst of this terrible conflict, the authorities are valiantly striving to meet their legal and moral obligations to do everything possible to find those who have gone missing. And they are doing this in the middle of a war. And the challenge is really, in our work, it's unprecedented. You know, when we started in Bosnia-Herzegovina, it was after a war. Most of the work we've done in Colombia, elsewhere, Iraq, it's after a war. Here, we're going in the middle of a war. So it is multiple times more challenging. 30,000 families, and that's the number that Catherine mentioned, I'm sure the number is greater than that, are waiting for answers. Upholding their rights means upholding the rule of law and building just and accountable institutions. In our discussions today, we will seek to identify practical strategies that can support this process. And again, I want to close by saying that we are not a pie-in-the-sky organization that bemoans the missing and et cetera. We are a very grassroots organization with the tools to deal practically with identifying the missing, with instructing the host government and related civil society or society organizations in how to do their own missing program, et cetera. So we welcome this. At this point, I would like to hear from Minister of Justice Dennis Maliuska, and that's going to be on one of these screens. So thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm grateful to ICMP for organizing this conference, which brings representatives of Ukrainian institutions together with family associations and civil society organizations, as well as with international partners. I understand that ICMP's Ukraine program is premised on upholding the rule of law. The Ukrainian government is cooperating with international partners to bring war criminals to justice, and ICMP's emphasis on ensuring that all evidence collected during missing persons investigations is admissible in court is an important element in this. The Ukrainian government also hopes to benefit from ICMP's forensics expertise, and I would point to the very successful visit by DNA experts from the Ministry of Justice to the ICMP laboratory in The Hague during May. We would like to build on this. The most important element of today's discussion is the testimony of family representatives. They will articulate the challenges that families of the missing face and the steps that they would require from the authorities in order to meet those challenges. And I want you to know that the Ukrainian government is listening. The Justice Ministry will work with the families and with the civil society, as well as with ICMP, to support a process under which those who are missing because of the Russian invasion are accounted for, and those responsible for their disappearance are prosecuted. Thank you. Slava Ukraini!
Thank you. Yeah. I now have the great honor to invite Her Majesty Queen Noor, who is ICMP's longest-serving commissioner since 2001, to the floor. Thank you.
It is my honor to be with you all, and those of you representing your country and the society, the civil society groups in your country, those diplomats and representatives of countries that we work with and that we depend upon as well to continue our work. Ambassador Miller has paid tribute to the remarkable efforts being made by the government of Ukraine, and I would like to second that. Also, I would like to highlight the remarkable efforts being made by Ukrainian families of the missing. A formidable civil society contingent is participating in today's meeting. From Ukraine, we have Natalia. You see their faces here, and you will see their faces later in the meeting. Natalia Zaritska, head of the Women of Steel Civil Society Organization. Olena Bayelchkova. I have to also excuse my pronunciation, or ask you to forgive me. Coordinator of the Groups of Families of Prisoners of War for the Civil Society Organization Media Initiative for Human Rights. Hanna Demydenko, representative of the NGOs, the Women's Veterans Movement and Legal 100, Marina Lipovetská, head of the Magnolia Missing Children Search Service and board member of Missing Children Europe, Ksenia, you know, I had a much easier time earlier. Ksenia Oneshenko, lawyer of the human rights group SICH, Anna Mihailishina, the regional representative of the Association of Families Polygon 56, Berdiansk, in the western region of Ukraine, and Alexandra Matvichuk, head of the Center for Civil Liberties in Kyiv, and the 2022 Nobel Peace Laureate. All of these activists are women. All of these women have been thrown into political and social advocacy because their families or families close to them have been affected by disappearances. And as we know, this issue has a distinct and accentuated impact on women. You will see, as we who were able to meet with them earlier, the courage, strength, commitment, and indomitable spirit of these women, representative, as they put it, of the women of Ukraine. Women are victims of disappearance and conflict. When most of the missing are men, it falls to women to take over multiple roles. Some of these roles involve confronting bureaucracy, fighting for the rights of families, for the provision of education, welfare, and other resources. This applies to the women of Ukraine, to the women of Syria and Iraq, of Colombia and Mexico, the women of Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Libya, and many other places. And of course, we speak of rights. These women are not seeking favors. They are not seeking special treatment. They are seeking truth, justice, and reparations. And we will do everything in our power to ensure that they are able to exercise their right to these things. It is our privilege to participate in this dialogue with these women today, and I look forward very much to the continuation of this dialogue in the future. As Ambassador Miller put it, we share our experience and our expertise, and we are with you to listen and to learn and to craft policies together that can most address the problems that you face and so many other families in your country. Thank you.
Thank you for that moving speech. I would now like to welcome to the podium Ambassador Brengelman, who is also an ICMP commissioner and I think well known in the city of The Hague. Ambassador.
Thank you. Excellencies and former colleagues and fellow commissioners and ladies and gentlemen, and in particular our guests from Ukraine. And as our chairman had said, we had quite a moving meeting already with you some time ago. So it's not just important to speak with and about the families of the missing and the civic society. It's also important to mention the role of the donors, and we would like to recognize their role here also. And that is my specific duty right now, and this includes, for the moment, we're always open to new candidates, and for the moment that would include on this program the European Union, the United States of America, and we will hear two speeches by representatives of that two bodies, and Canada. And I would also, and you forgive me for doing so, I would also like to acknowledge my own country, Germany, for its significant contribution. I would like to thank its legal team under the heading of Jan Nemitz, who supported me in my role as ambassador here, but also later on, including on Germany becoming a member, and including on making sure that we can provide this significant contribution for this program. In addition, we have other governments that provide core contributions that make our work possible, and they also should be mentioned, which is including our host country, the Netherlands, as well as Luxembourg and the Czech Republic. The work that we are engaged in together is a cooperative process that requires all hands on deck, so to speak. And finding tens of thousands of missing persons and investigating their disappearance is critical to justice, as we have just heard in that speech from Kiev, as well as peace and stability in Europe and beyond. Just as financial support is indispensable, so too is administrative and political cooperation. ICMP, as you may know, has been working with the authorities in Ukraine since 2014, not a coincidence. And over the course of nearly a decade, we have developed productive partnership with key Ukrainian institutions. And this has intensified since February 2022. And we very much hope that we will be able, and you have heard that before, to codify our working relationship with Ukraine partners through a cooperation agreement, which we expect to be signed in the very near future. And donors, let me put that very openly, were quickly available to and ready to support this program. And from our side, the donor community, we now expect to start the full cooperation and really hope for and expect a speedy signature ceremony on that cooperation agreement. So let me again thank these donors which I mentioned, and again we hope for others to follow, because this is a very important program, and I think we all agree that this needs our full attention. And I also realize I see Markus Leinen from the EU, so the EU is represented with us here tonight as well. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attention, and all the best for our Ukrainian guests in your endeavor. Thank you.
We now have two pre-recorded speeches, one from Acting Assistant Secretary of State from the United States, Erin Barkley. And then following her speech, we will have a speech from the Director of Foreign Policy Instruments, Peter Wagner.
And the International Commission on Missing Persons for the opportunity to speak with you today and open this important event. Let me start by saying that our hearts go out to the people of Ukraine as they face new challenges every day, including in the aftermath of the horrific Novokakhovka Dam destruction earlier this month. This devastation of lives and livelihoods is another tragic outcome of Russia's unprovoked, full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and is just another way in which the Ukrainian people are needlessly suffering. Unfortunately, the more we learn about Russia's horrific actions in the territory of Ukraine that it occupies, the darker the picture becomes. We are only beginning to understand the scope of abuses and atrocities committed by Russia's forces and authorities. Some of the most under-publicized abuses are those Russia's forces have committed against Ukraine's civilian population, who never sought this conflict, but tragically bear its consequences. In meeting with Ukrainian civil society partners, we often hear a plea for the international community to increase its focus on the tens of thousands of civilians detained by Russia's forces. These detentions often appear to be random. Families have reported Russia's forces and proxies detaining their loved ones while they're out to take the trash or deliver aid to neighbors. Over time, we've learned more about Russia's forces' practice of detaining Ukrainian civilians, many of whom have never been heard from since their detention. Others who have managed to return home, mainly as a result of prisoner swaps, tell heart-wrenching stories about the widespread use of torture, threatened executions, and starvation of or sexual violence against detainees. They report that some captors use electric shocks to elicit forced confessions, Some use dogs to attack detainees, and others beat or starve detainees to death. The families of those detained often have no way to contact or trace the location of their loved ones because of Russia barring family members, lawyers, and international monitoring groups from meeting with those they hold in custody. I want to affirm the United States' unwavering commitment to ensuring that all unjustly held persons are not forgotten, that they do not become faceless statistics as Russia wages its unprovoked and illegal war. As Secretary Blinken said in his February 24th address to the UN Security Council, quote, "We can never let the crimes Russia is committing become our new normal." The United States stands with these detainees. We will continue to tell their stories and promote accountability for those responsible for the injustices they endure. The world will not look away from Russia's abuses. Since Russia launched its full-scale invasion on February 24th, 2022, the United States government has been supporting documentation of and promoting accountability for the myriad atrocities and other abuses committed by members of Russia's forces and other Russian officials in Ukraine. We are proud to support the brave work of ICMP, Ukrainian civil society, and local organizations working with families of the missing, whose efforts to document, publicize, and seek accountability for Russia's atrocities and other abuses will be essential for justice for the people of Ukraine. We are proud to support ICMP, a leader in seeking accountability for the missing and the disappeared. Along with others working on the missing in the former Yugoslavia, ICMP made it possible to account for more than 70% of the 40,000 missing persons in that region as a result of the conflicts in the 1990s. ICMP's work in Ukraine, funded by the United States and the European Union, has provided vital support for Ukrainian government institutions, including the Office of the Prosecutor General, the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the National Police, the Ministry of Health, and the State Scientific Forensic Center, as well as for family organizations and civil society working to locate and identify missing and disappeared persons. Their shared aims are ensuring protection and respect for the rights of survivors and facilitating the prosecution of war crimes and future transitional justice processes. Since October 2022, ICMP has identified 1,021 individual cases of missing persons. The United States will continue to support Ukraine in any way we can in seeking justice and accountability for Russia's abuses. I want to close by reinforcing the message of President Biden and Secretary Blinken, and that is that we will stand united with the people of Ukraine as they stand up for the freedom and principles reflected in the United Nations Charter. Their fight for democracy is our fight for democracy. We will stand with Ukraine for as long as it takes. Thank you.
I would like to join other speakers in thanking ICPM for organizing this discussion. Among the many horrors that Russia's illegal war of aggression is bringing to Ukraine, it is the disappearance of people. Locating and identifying those who have disappeared because of the Russian invasion is a challenging and a painful process. First of all, for the families of the missing, but also for the authorities and the local communities. This process also must be and is being developed on the basis of the rule of law. This is what makes it an investment in justice and accountability. This is also why the EU cooperates with ICMP to support Ukraine's search and identification of missing persons. ICMP not only brings its specific expertise to the table, but it works also dovetails with broader reforms which are essential for Ukraine's EU integration and recovery. ICMP is helping Ukrainian authorities to develop institutional and administrative support for the missing persons process, working with Ukrainian forensic services to provide expert technical support, and working with Ukrainian civil society to help families of the missing to take an effective and leading role. This is an investment in building a judicial framework that will move further along the path of European integration. The strategies that are being developed for Ukraine are based on other European countries' experience that have lived through war. Your rights to truth and justice are the same as our rights to truth and justice. Ukraine's right to resist aggression and to protect its territorial integrity, sovereignty and independence is the same right that is enjoyed by European states. And please allow me to conclude by addressing directly the representatives of the families of the missing who are taking part in today's event. Nothing we do can match the pain that was so unjustifiably inflicted on you. But please know that the EU support for the work we are discussing here today is an expression not only of a political commitment, but also of solidarity. The citizens of the European Union stand by the families of missing persons in Ukraine. We stand by you until victory and until justice is restored. Thank you for your attention, and Slava Ukraini.
Ambassador Rapp, please. Former Ambassador at Large for War Crimes, please.
Well, thank you very much for including me in tonight's event, and I want to join others in saluting the great work of the International Commission on Missing Persons and what they've done in so many conflict situations since their creation more than 2 decades ago. But I'm particularly honored to be here with the representatives of civil society organizations that represent the families of the missing in Ukraine. Having worked as an international prosecutor and then as ambassador under President Obama during his administration, and since then on a variety of accountability situations, frankly, it is civil society that is the most powerful force in the world for justice. It simply needs to be enabled. And what this agreement is about, which will soon be signed by the government, is about enabling civil society to do that work in cooperation with the authorities that can see it done. Importantly, we're talking in the area of accountability and transitional justice about, first of all, truth. And I know from meeting with the families today that the first and foremost thing they want to know is the truth about their loved ones, when they were taken, where they are today, what's happening to them. They also desperately want them returned if they're alive, or frankly, if their remains are available, bring those back as well. But they also are entitled to justice, and that is a matter of international law. People who've been victimized, including the families of those that have been disappeared and missing, are entitled to have their case comprehensively investigated. And they're entitled then, if case can be built, to have those perpetrators held to account. And they're also entitled to reparations. But that takes evidence. That takes hard work. And that's why it's so important, I think, to have ICMP on the job in this case. As you may know, and as I'm quite familiar, they did vital work in the former Yugoslavia, in the ICTY. It was their work that frankly identified more than 7,000 of the victims at Srebrenica. In many cases, bodies that have been moved to multiple sites, finally identifying to the point that the family accepted them for a dignified burial. And the evidence that then they developed from that was fundamental to the process of justice in convicting Ratko Mladic, the general in charge there, the political leader, Radovan Karadzic, for the crime of genocide, for the murder of those men and boys at Srebrenica in 1995. Without that work, without that solid evidence, that kind of justice would not have been possible. In Ukraine, we frankly see the results of impunity that Russia has experienced in other situations, in Chechnya, in Syria. And it's no wonder that that expectation of impunity is now covered with responsibility for a variety of war crimes. I mean, one of the most sickening things that I think most of us have seen in the press in the last 2 days was the inscription written on the wall of a building where soldiers had stayed, in which they wrote, "It's not a war crime if you're having fun while you're doing it." These people think that they will get away with these crimes. These are fundamental crimes against international law. Enforced disappearance, a crime against humanity, prosecutable in the ICC, prosecutable in third countries. The crime of forced deportation, now already for children, prosecuted in the ICC, but also for adults, is both a crime against humanity and a war crime that can be prosecuted at the ICC or in the Ukrainian system or in third countries. And of course, there are people who are prisoners of war, and prisoners of war can be legally detained, but they need to be treated humanely when they're tortured, when they're starved, when they're mistreated, when they're frankly murdered, when sometimes they're raped. Those are horrendous war crimes that can be prosecuted at the national or at the international level. But let me just say something else about this, because these crimes can be prosecuted in different places, and the high-level individuals can be brought to account legally, as we see. Of course, there's still a matter of the cooperation required to do it, but as we see with the arrest warrant against Vladimir Putin for the forcible deportation of children. But there is the overarching international crime that's happened here. War crimes will depend on what actually happened. And a lot of the bombardments, a lot of the bombings, et cetera, will be impossible to show that it was a war crime. Were they aiming at a military target? Were they weren't? Or were they not? Can you show the level of intent necessary to have a crime against humanity or its relationship to a common scheme or plan? There are challenges in all of these cases. But we know one overarching crime. On the 24th of February, 2022, millions of Ukrainians were going to work or school, not bothering anybody in the world. If they threatened anybody, it was threatening to establish a successful democracy on the borders of Russia. And for that, suddenly, death began to rain from the skies. So all of the individuals who've suffered as a result of that invasion, including soldiers who've gone to the war, gone to the front, and were killed in compliance with the laws of war. They're victims too. And those that have been kept as prisoners of war, victims too. They're victims of the crime of aggression. And that, I think, is why it's so fundamentally important to take the additional step that I understand Ukraine may move a resolution at the UN General Assembly to establish an international tribunal to try that crime that would encompass with it, as they said at Nuremberg, the accumulated evil of the whole. This is about justice, of course, for Ukraine, but it's fundamentally about justice for human beings and all of those that have suffered. And if we fail to deliver justice in this case, well, we'll make anyone in the world safe. And so I think it's critical that this agreement be signed, that the evidence be developed, that the strongest possible cases be brought, that the Ukrainian prosecutor have the support that they deserve, that the ICC has the support from throughout the world where it has jurisdiction, but also that we have a court to try the supreme international crime committed by Russia against Ukraine, the crime of aggression. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Rapp, for that very powerful speech. Thank you. Minister Counselor, you're next, please. Anatoly Solovey. Thank you.
Your Majesty, Excellencies, dear friends, please let me start with the words of gratitude to the ICMP for hosting this extraordinary event and for organizing this discussion. Today, Ukrainians are engaged in the existential struggle, and we are grateful for the outstanding support we receive. We feel it not only on the battlefield, not only on the home front. We feel it also in such a crucial for every Ukrainian dimension as bringing Russian terrorist state to account for all horrible crimes they have committed in my country. Without justice, Ukrainian victory will be incomplete. That was stated so many times by Ukrainian leadership. And the paragraph on the justice enshrined in Ukrainian peace formula by President Zelensky. It was also said many times before that this war is not only Ukrainian. This is our common. Because today Ukrainians are fighting to defend our universal values. Universal values so cherished by every single citizen of the free world. Such values as peace, freedom, equal rights, human dignities, and the paramount authority of the rule of law. Rule of law cannot fall the victim of the rule of power. At the beginning of this month, we had particularly fruitful meeting here at the ICMP with the Ukrainian forensic experts from the Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Health. This event has provided the opportunity for Ukrainian forensic experts to get acquainted with the work of modern European DNA laboratory. Practical cooperation of this kind with the ICMP will definitely help Ukrainian experts, forensic investigators, to ensure that the results they have on the ground, that the evidence they collect in the field will definitely help thousands of Ukrainian families to detect missing persons. And they will help not only identification, but what is very important, to ensure the admissibility of this evidence in the international courts according to the international standards. These practical steps, they transform the political solidarity we have widely around the world into the practical steps help Ukrainian families to access to justice. And we're willing to work closely with the ICMP in this dimension to make all these things possible. Thank you very much for your assistance. Thank you.
I would now like to welcome our dear guests who have traveled all the way from Ukraine to be with us here today, to tell their stories, to talk about their struggles, to talk about everything that's happening with them. But I'd really, Andre, if you could bring the group up here, that would be very nice.
My name is Andrei Kulikov, but you will hear the most important names and surnames, and they will be pronounced in the right way because they will represent themselves, but it will happen in 3 minutes. Now you can admire them, have a look at them, at their faces, and see how their faces change when they're speaking about what they have lived through. And also a big gratitude to those speakers who, with their very touching and deep speeches, framed the context of what will be happening right now. So we will hear something different from the participant, but it's still in the same framework. Tom Miller said that ICMP is an organization, grassroots organization. He mentioned that it's a grassroots organization. So these people, they are not just grassroots, they are the soil of earth, as it's told in Ukraine. And that's what unites us. From the May of this year in Ukraine, the unified register was launched for the missing, which was designed together with the Ministry of Internal Affairs, with the Ombudsperson on missing persons and other institutions. On the 14th of May, on the 14th of June, just recently, the Ombudsperson on the human rights informed that the register has already 20,000 cases about civilians who are missing from the full-scale invasion. So it's a database from the Ministry of Internal Affairs has more than 30,000 cases. And the possibility to have the new type of biological expertise, forensic expertise, is very crucial to analyze the bodies and to find the parts which were found on the locations of atrocities. And it will help to bring to accountability that the Ministry of Internal Affairs opened the DNA laboratories in the regions, and the Ministry of Health provide the support in identification on the DNA expertise. So we are improving the tools and the equipment of the DNA laboratories, and also the trainings are being held both by the ICMP and by other international partners who are supporting these efforts. The experience, the expertise which are given to us by other countries who had already this experience when the thousands of people were missing, shows that we should include the most stakeholders. These are the families of the missing, in order to identify the missing people in the long-term perspective. The families are not only providing the biological samples, but they are also very proactive in the civil campaigns in order to increase the advocacy and explaining the rights of these families, because sometimes they cannot use those rights, but sometimes they can use. Today, during this debate, these discussions about the issues of missing in Ukraine, we should always remember this main principle. Families of missing people should be very proactive and very involved participants in this process. And now everyone who came to share their pain, sometimes their hope, sometimes their experience, will tell about themselves. And everyone will have only 30 seconds in order to tell why you should listen to her. We will start with Ksenia. Thank you. My name is Ksenia Onishchenko. I'm 39 years old. I was born in Popasna in Lugansk region. It's a very blossoming city which used to have a very good railway connection and also a very good railway repair plant. But I cannot go there, neither by train or any means of transportation, because it is occupied. It is destroyed for 90%, and there are thousands of citizens under those debris, and a lot of them were deported on the uncontrolled territories. Today, I represent the siege law organization. So we have been providing the legal assistance for 9 years. So how you managed to put it, those 9 years in those 30 seconds? Now, Natalia. I'm Natalka Zarytska. I am the wife of Azovstal, a defender who spent 4 months in the Russian prison in Olenivka and in Baranivka. He returned. He lost 43 kilos of weight and half of his personality. The only feeling which he returned with, the only feeling which the Russian didn't manage to get rid of him, that's the willing to eat. So we have a very long path to overcome what we have lived through. I am the head of the organization Mothers and Wives, Women of Steel. Anna. Mikhailishin Anna. The 110 mechanized brigade. My husband has been he has been captured for more than 1 year. As thousands of women, I'm praying for him and for everyone who is with him to return back home. Our organization, these are the wives and mothers who are searching the assistance, who are searching the truth, and who are willing to be heard. Thank you, Anna. So they are waiting from the assistance from the God, but they are assisting by themselves, though they are not goddesses. I'm Rachkova Olena. I am the wife of the former prisoner of war, and I'm also volunteer in the military hospitals for 9 years. From the full-scale invasion, my assistance increased. I now have also the families of missing in my lab, and I am coordinating the media initiative on the rights of children. Those families came into my life just 24/7. I am in contact with them, and with those who are missing, these are the friends of my husband. For mom, there is very important of Volodymyr because it's a support and hope, and that she will find his son, that she will manage to go through this path. We have to return everyone. When someone is coming to your life, it means that you also entered into this life. I'm Ganna Demedenko. 10 years, my life has been linked with the protection of rights of military. I have a tattoo of Izum, which was totally destroyed by Russian Federation. I did it in March 2022 because it was the only reason how to memorize the place where a very important person for me was missing. And I didn't know whether I will be living. So the tattoo on the arm, that's the sign which is going to the heart of everyone who is sensible to what is going on. But we also have a very important participants who are joining us by Zoom, and I am passing the word to Marina Lipovets. I am Marina Lipovetska. I am the head of the service of the NGO Magnolia, who have been working for 20 years searching children in Ukraine and abroad. Thank you. And you managed to save 20 seconds for the next speaker. And now moving to Alexandra Matvichuk. I'm Alexandra Matvichuk. I'm a law defender. I'm the head of the NGO, and since 2014 we are documenting the war crimes and also the abductions, tortures, and detention of civilians on the occupied territories. Thank you. We already mentioned Alexander Matvichuk as the Nobel Prize Peace winner of the last year, but the value of these people is invaluable. But I know Olesa personally, but what she has been doing and her team is incredible. And now we are moving to the first part of our debate, to the personal stories which were already mentioned in the introduction, but they are worth to be listened in full. Natalia, please, 2 minutes. So, Women of Steel, we grew from 4 women to 4,000 women. So we lived through the most complicated year of our life. The families of military servicemen, we were preparing for the war, but we couldn't have predicted that our families will be in the most hellish places of the world, in the Russian torturing places, in Bakhmut, in Azovstal, and also in massive graveyards. When we are facing this horrible reality, we didn't know how to act, but we decided to act on our will, and we started protecting our families. And we are in collaboration with our state institutions. Within 4 hours, we found the possibilities to come with the files, and we moved to Istanbul. That was the beginning of our international fight. And we managed to come to Erdogan, and we had the media briefings, more than 10 negotiations. We gave interviews to more than 137 international medias, and we even met the Patriarch Bartholomeus. As more we were involved in the war, we understood that the thousands of hundreds of people are facing the catastrophe because they didn't have the understanding how to act if someone close to them was missing or killed. We managed to build a network women in steel in 7 biggest cities of Ukraine. Our volunteers and activists are working in Melbourne, in Toronto, Batumi, Krakow. We became the voices of the most pressing issues of our category of families for our state. And with this collaboration, we started the hotlines and the process of communication started. We have the regular meetings with the authorities, the state authorities. And as I mentioned, the hotline started working. Natalia, we will have the chance to work about the tools. Thank you for this very concise story. And now we're moving to Anna. You are also searching your husband. Please share, if it's not too much too personal, the story, how it is linked, how the story is linked with the platform 57.
My story is quite simple. My husband started to defend our motherland as all other men did. When the news came that my husband became captive, the first time I didn't understand what's going on. I don't have an idea of military service, and my husband was not a military man. We didn't know what to do. 24/7 we have monitored Telegram channel, Google, internet, and everything else. Then we thought, but you are not alone on the field. You have to do something together. That's the way we united with the families of the Brigade 150. Then I started to work with Olena. We started to work together as an organization. 48 units of the armed forces of Ukraine are with us. These are mothers, sisters, wives of the soldiers of this brigade. We united our forces so they all would come home. We give them legal advice, medical advice, psychological advice. We support the families, sometimes even with simple word. Thank you very much. Olena. That's organization MIJR, Media Initiative for Human Rights, very important. You work with the families of the people, missing people. The MIJR, especially we concentrate on the missing persons. That's a new experience for us. I started to work on it from the November of 2022 because not everyone knows from the families where to go, how to find out the information, etc. So our organization became an assistance for these families. The Coordination Council has a map that has to be done when you work with the people whose loved ones are missing. So these people come to us. We give recommendations for these people to create the family units because these organizations will represent not only interests connected to their families, but the units. Each and every family has a right to be present in the meetings with the state bodies. They have a right to make requests. Especially it's important for the elderly people or people who are located in the occupied territories and cannot directly communicate with the state organizations. Unfortunately, there are missing persons who don't have families, so we work them. We are assisting to the 18th these groups that asking us for assistance in having some connections with the state bodies, international organizations, so the problems will be known with the families of missing person. Hannah, what is your experience of disappearance and what kind of assistance you give to the people that you decided to assist? In 2016, I was able to find the first person who was missing. Really, the problem was the lack of information. First of all, his family didn't have an idea. For 2 years, this family lived without any support, assistance. And I want to say that that man was a volunteer. My next of kin was liberated when Izium was liberated. We did have information, not only by tattoo, but all notebooks, everything was preserved, everything would be noted. I represent here two organizations. One is the Legal Hundreds. We give the legal advice. Starting 2015, we have a hotline. Every day, we have 12 operators who work every day answering the questions of the defenders and their families. Today, this morning, I checked the statistic data. Starting 24th of February, we received 1,240 requests. Families want to have information. They don't know what to do, where to go, where to ask assistance. They don't know their rights, but very often they are not given these guarantees and these rights. So we give them consultations regarding their rights, give them legal advice. We give this information on our websites and our resources. And a lot of requests are to react to the lack of activities from the government, lack of documents, and this is a huge problem, and we hope that all together we will be able to resolve it. Anna, don't say we hope, say we know we will do it. Marina Lepoecka, you work in a very important organization, Magnolia. This is a CSO working on the issue of missing children. Would you mind telling us of the extent of the missing children issue in Ukraine, in particular about the deported children? I know that you have now much more work than before. Please let us know. What I can tell you, even talking about the numbers before invasion, we received 400 requests with regarding to the missing children, but starting 24th of February, we have received over 3,000 requests from parents, relatives about their missing children, and the cause is completely different. It used to be the minors who would leave their houses, but right now it's because of the military actions. The children disappearing because they are trying to hide from the bordering. And what's the most important, that Ukraine faces the activity that you really would not even imagine in the center of Europe in the 21st century. That's a mass deportation of the Ukrainian children, and it's such a high volume that you are highly impressed. And the official data is that over 19,400 Ukrainian children were identified as forcibly moved to Russia. And I stress that these numbers are not very representative because the real amount much higher. And the final amount will be known only when all occupied territories will be freed. Thank you, Marina. We will have a lot of emotion today, but the numbers as important. Magnolia and other organizations use them. For example, Xenia represents the group SIG. They represent the families of missing soldiers and civilians as well. Can you tell us what is the differences in your work with these groups? It's very difficult work. It's difficult to work with them and assist them because currently we do not have even approximate statistic how many people, civilians, are missing. First of all, the documentation of disappearance of the person, it's only based when a family member, neighbors is declaring them as missing. In the military units, there are official lists, and when the serviceman disappears, then the military unit can notify the family that their son or daughter are missing. No one notifies the families when someone of civilians disappears. Unfortunately, we do not have any coordination center of assistance to the civilians that disappeared. We do not have any mechanism in place how to return these people. Our organization has organized the first meeting of the coordination staff with the families of missing people, but it's not their main activity. First of all, their activity is targeting on the military POW and return them, not about the civilians. Russia does not want to recognize that they have these people. This is not even foreseeable by any international law. How can you, based on international law, detain a civilian person? These people have to be returned. Thus, Russia wants to avoid responsibility. They don't want to recognize the crimes that they are committing right now, currently. We know from the people, civilians that were freed finally, that these people are also in torture cells. They are killed, being tortured. But what is the goal of it? What they want to do? I think that the after-war investigation and court will put all the dots over I. Alexandra Matvichuk, next question, please. You have 2 minutes. What can you tell us about involvement of the Center for Civil Liberties in this regard? What is the sheer scale of this issue, and what are some of the activities your organization does to address this issue? We started to work on the problem of missing person in 2014. We were the first organization that sent mobile groups in Crimea and Luhansk and Donetsk region. Also, we had a report on behalf of one. We described there what kind of terrible things our families of the missing person have to go through to understand what's going on with their loved ones. Then we had a concept of the law that was later adopted in 2014 and some other things. And our colleagues mentioned before that now the amount of cases dramatically grew up, and we don't know how just to extinguish a fire. We need also to do everything that causes it. That's why we see see two categories in that. Ukraine cannot influence, or it's very difficult to do that. And there are second category that Ukraine has to resolve and can do. And in our opinion, Ukraine has to make a state policy on behalf of the missing person more humanly and more efficiently investigation. So today we have mentioned some reports that we have developed together with the coordination staff. It is one of the steps to create the system of humanity, so the people that faces this terrible thing will not be alone. Thank you, Alexandra. And as it was mentioned in the welcome speeches, the center works on that for years based on the mandate of ICMP. All missing persons, despite of the circumstances, have to be identified, and this is a task for the government. We already heard a reply for that, and we all have to understand that despite all the circumstances, the pain and the rights of families is the same. We all are different, but the pain we can compare is more or less the same. People can somewhat relate to the suffering of having a loved one missing, but rarely do they understand the practical implications. Unfortunately, the people who are here with you don't know about it. And I would like to ask Anna, based on your experience, what kind of most typical, if you can say that, effects onto a family when a family member disappears? The most typical effects for a family, that's a psychological aspect and also legal advice. But thanks to the team of our girls, there is a number that I always can recommend people to call, and these girls help them. I can state on my own example. My daughter is 7 years old, and already for 3 months we have to visit psychologists, because every day my daughter coming back from school asks me the same question: when my father will be back? And I do not have any answer to that question. Every day she cries, and I have to calm her down. I have to tell her a little bit longer. But you know, when you are in this kind of situation, you don't want to lie, because you don't know what kind of end will it have. You always have to find a way out of the situation, different way. And it's also difficult when you have old parents, when the son or daughter are missing. And some mothers, believe me, this is terrible. They are not able to wait. Their heart just stops. And this is a terrible story, because, you know, you're also suffering with them. Okay, legal aspect, I already have mentioned about it. But what to do with our cycle? You know, our children became adults too early. They started to understand things too early, the things they do not need to understand.
You think that you're not willing to lie. And it's a principle of the truth, that you have to tell the truth, only the truth. But can we tell all the truth? I believe that right now we cannot say. I believe that you can speak about yourself, but about the large-scale war crime is only being identified. We know, Natalia, that your husband is back, and we already know some results, some outcomes when he returned. So what was in your life before he returned, and what changed when he returned? So the mother of my husband didn't survive. She had a heart attack when he was in Olenivka. And our men had to survive this famine. When you have your 50th anniversary and you have just 2 pieces of bread, or, for example, if you have to wear the socks which were given by everyone in the barracks. So he lost the teeth, he is not sensing his limbs, and also psychological outcomes, and it's not the exhaustive list of what the families will face when their loved ones will return from the Russian prisons. So he lost his health, which could not be reimbursed or restituted. And the most atrocious memories, there were 28 people in Donetsk, and they were 18 only square meters, and there were only 10 beds. So my husband was sleeping on the floor. So there were no hygienic support. They didn't have water. What is now? I believe that right now that's the most complicated for me, that we cannot have a child due to his health issues. Thank you. This word, thank you, may sound hypocritic, but I'm thankful that you are talking about this. Now the question of Marina Lipovetsky, your organization, which already have identified the outcomes of the illegal deportation and also some other outcomes of the abducted children. I believe that if someone has a child, or even if you do not have a child, but there is someone whom you love, can imagine that if it's a small person which is totally dependable on you, and suddenly this person disappears, and you don't know whether it's alive, or whether it's under occupation, or it is deported, and there are numerous cases when one of the parents was killed, and the child was taken away from a killed person, and other parent who was on the controlled territory had the understanding that his beloved one was killed, and has no knowledge what is happening to the child, and they are trying to find this child, and there's a fainting this issue that the Russian Federation does not agree to give any information about the children which they deported forcefully. So I will tell you later about the tools, individual tools, because there is no general tool. So we are trying to find this information from witnesses, from everyone who can tell where this children is. By a miracle, a person discovers that a child is placed in orphanage in Russian Federation, or, for example, the child is forcefully adopted, despite all the international convention saying that it's an orphan, though there is still one parent alive, and then this parent has this choice to risk hers or his own life to save these children. And already the beloved one was killed, but another one has to risk his or her life to come to the Russian Federation and to force to take back the children. And we had the case when the person was even imprisoned. So what Marina is telling, what are the choices for Ukrainians? But there are also people who are deciding not to take choices. This is the organization Siege. In which way are you dealing with the requests which you receive? I will not repeat what my colleagues are doing on the law defending issues. We are providing the full support to the families of missing, to the military men, and to the IDPs. But the part of our work is the documentation of the war crimes evidence. We have been doing this since 2015. There were those prisoners of war who were liberated, and we were sending the request to the International Court on Human Rights. Now we're documenting the crimes committed with the civilian population, and also we should have the admissible evidence to be used in the International Criminal Court, and I do hope that the tribunal for Putin will be created. Those documented war crimes are also in the form of the documentary movies, and we represent them not only in Ukraine but also in the international platforms. We are trying to show what types of atrocities and crimes our people are suffering from. Now we are documenting a movie in Kherson where we have 4 torture cages, one for children and one of the boys on the consent of parents. Will be telling what he witnessed, what atrocities he witnessed. And with this movie, we are willing to show to those who became victims of Russian aggression that they shouldn't be silent, because those crimes which are not talking about won't be punished. Now we're coming back to Marina, who will tell about the tools and means. So I believe, what are you doing with the documentation on the deportation of children? So how Magnolia is functioning right now? I would like to add that about the documentation of war crimes on deportation. I would like to underline the civil society commitment of the whole Ukraine. Those NGOs which are present here are also documenting the illegal deportation of Ukrainian children. I would like also to highlight that for the families right now whose children were deported, for them, the most important task for them is to return these children. So when we are waiting, the value of how to investigate those children, to identify where they are, and then to bring liability, because it's not possible to allow them to change their identities. So as NGO Magnolia has the main task is this search of these children, to provide this information to the families, to the parents, to the ombudsperson, to the General Prosecutor's Office, in order to start this process, in order to force the other party to return those children. Now we will have an experiment for the 2 minutes. Now you will have only 1 minute and a half. And Natalia have the same question. As members of the alliances or families of missings, you can tell how it feels to represent the interests of the family of missing. What are the joint events which you are conducting in order to increase the literacy about this, and also the empathy on this topic? Who is ready, Anna or Natalia? Who will be the first one? Anna. So the families have similar issues. It's very typical. And you've listened to us. These are the search, identification of the beloved ones. If they were captured, we're trying to communicate, to search, or if to search if there is a family member. Then we are trying to coordinate the family members and to tell what is allowed to do in this situation, because when someone is missing, you have to act accordingly. And we are also providing the information on the documents which should be gathered in order to document the situation when the person is missing or was taken as prisoner of war. We are also providing the consultations. We also have psychologists in the ranging 57 now who can help. We also have lawyers who can provide assistance, and they can help the family members. We are also trying to write those collective requests to be visible and heard that there is such an issue and that we should be heard, for our voices to be heard, and that people were feeling our pain. Your voices have to be heard, and you have to be convincing. And I believe that you can do it, and you are doing this. Natalia, you're 1 hour and a half. So to be the head of the Women of Steel means the responsibility and the support. To have a comprehensive approach, we opened the legal hotline to collect the most pressing issues. So we have 3 main areas of work. First, effective collaboration with the state authorities, our international partners, and the families of the missing and the prisoners of war, in order to solve the most topical issues. Secondly, these are the amending the legislation on how to behave with people who had a very huge traumatizing experience. And third is to keep the visibility and also the international community interest in searching the missing and also commemorating those fallen. And I totally understand the issue of Anna, because my son, who is 9 years old, and my husband is speaking only at night. And I didn't know that my son was hearing. And 2 weeks ago, I saw that he sculptured a body without legs. So I have to work with psychologists with him. Her Excellency Queen Nuru was mentioning that the representation of women is very high, and it's true. We have been talking mainly about men and children who are being searched in the captivities, in detention. But we know that also a lot of women are being detained who are also serving in the military or who are also civilians. And there is a question to Hanna. What support are you providing to women veterans or to women who are now in this current situation? So I represent 2 organizations with which I collaborate, and I've been working with them. And the second one is the Women Veterans Alliance. So they created a very powerful community to have the advocacy of rights of women veterans. After the 24th of February, most part of our team returned to the armed forces. Unfortunately, we lost a number of women who were killed in action, and some were wounded, and they are now under rehabilitation, and some of them will not recover. And not that many, but we have our women who are also missing. Not that many, but still there are. When children are losing their mother, it's a special drama for the family. So our goal is to advocate the systematic changes in the state programs on rehabilitation, on the psychological support, on the family psychological support. Those women who are coming back from the captivity, they need this, and their family need this. But also our task is to support the role and to prepare the families, not only of the women of military women, but also the families of military men, that they will play an important role in the political life. And we show our stance, and our voice should be heard. And I believe that it's a very efficient tool. Thank you, Hanna.
Thank you, Anna. And Olena represents an organization which is interesting because it works on the initiative of the population, and also they work with mass media. So it broadens your horizon on one side, and on the other side, probably you have more responsibility, and also the people look at your organization different way. But you have already a huge experience, and you also investigate the cases of forceful disappearance. How can you help? How can you help with your experience to other organizations? Our organization has a field missions, receives information about the forceful disappearances, and then the journalists also work with people people who saw with their own eyes that. Of course, we work with the people on voluntarily basis. We, together with the channel ICTV, filmed dozens of stories of the civilians that were forcibly deported to Russia or suffered due to the Russian aggression. Also, we explain why it happened, and we motivate the people to do that because it is very important, because it's the evidential basis. So the people who did this to them have to be responsible for that and have to be prosecuted. We worked also with investigators of the ICC and other international institutions, with families of the people that are missing because they forcefully was taken to the Russian Federation. They participate in different international meetings, events, so they will make aware the international community what kind of problem is in Ukraine with these terrible international crimes connected to war. The people are kidnapped, deported. They are together in jails and having the same tortures that military personnel has. They are having problems with their health, mental and physical health. So the analogy is the same, but it's worse for the civilians because they never have faced something like that. So that's why we will continue to work with these people. We will contact with the law enforcement agencies of Ukraine and international institutions and try to develop the mechanism to return civilians. Thank you, Lena. It's very important because you mentioned national law enforcement. So now we are talking here about the Ukrainian government, how they are helping to the efforts of different organizations that they do something with you. You know, the experience on each and every organization is different, but you all are united by what you do and how you can help each other. But also you have common challenges. That's why I would like each of you to say a couple of words, what kind of assistance, or let's say what kind of hindrances you see, and you don't want those hindrances from the government, and what kind of efforts you want to see from the government. Okay, probably it would be the best to listen to the next of kin, but as advocates, what do we see? We see that the issue of missing persons has to be one of the priorities of the state policy. We understand that we are now in the stage of war, and the Ukrainian nation has a different priorities: weapons, economical sanctions, support in voting in the UN General Assembly. But the people that suffering in this war have to be a priority. That's why we're fighting for. And when this issue, we look at this issue from this point of view, then you see a lot of practices, procedure, rules and regulations that have to be changed. Most of the problems that in practice are facing the families, there's a lack of instructions, for example, what to do correctly, what to make known, what not to make known, what to do if you don't know if the person is missing or not, coordination with the government agencies. I see that the families have to reach different instances, different organizations to find the information. So we need to have a single window opportunity for these people with regard to these complicated issues. The same register that had to start working still in 2018, but this register just started to be filled in now, and we even don't know if it works efficiently. We need to support this work. And now I have to tell you that I am mentioning the problem that our government had to resolve already, because this could have influenced already the situation. Thank you, Alexandra. I was shown that we have only 10 minutes left, but I am sure that if we have some changes in plans, it's not important for them. That's why instead of 2 minutes and also some final words that we have to plan, what I propose to you 1 minute on this topic and make it your final words. You know, you have to make such a powerful statement that nothing needs to be added. And Hannah, you will be the first one. 1 minute. Regarding the recommendation, with regard to the challenges, families have right to receive the information in any stage and in any procedures. Secondly, the creation of efficient programs in support of families. Alexandra mentioned humanity. Yes, Ukrainian legislation has to be human for the people, and also working on initiatives for families and civil organizations. After our first visit to Haga, we have united. We have created the platform, and this platform will work. Also, it's important that the war is waged. Unfortunately, there will be more wars in the future, and we realize that. But there are organizations that have a huge experience, and they can share this experience. That's why we appeal the Ukrainian government powerhouse to sign that agreement, that we will be able to use all these opportunities, we and the families. There are different fronts. We don't have one front. One front, that's where the battle is waged. My front is there at the front line at Bakhmut. I am here. It's a legal front, and I am convinced we will win in both of them. Thank you. Olena, for us, recommendations, first of all, the most important is for our parliament members, our Verkhovna Rada, finally to decide on the POWs that return. So they have to choose alternative service after they come back. Then Ministry of Internal Affairs recommendation. There are a lot of people who are asking them. They want to put the DNA profile from the living relatives and better work with investigators. Investigators have to work a lot on identifying the identification of frauds. Law enforcement agencies sometimes do not work on that. They do not state the cause why this person perished. And also, when it was said already, there has to be a proper functioning of the a unified register that started to work in 2023. All of us need today a government policy and also the culture of behavior with the people that had serious trauma. We need to work on that. I support Olena in that there, it has not to be the fact like that, okay? We have changed them, and then he came back to the real life and back to front. These people who survived that have to have a choice. First of all, rehabilitation, support of their families, resocialization. Also today we are thinking about the life patronage of these people. And here we need activities of one body, one organization that will be one entry point for these people. With regard to the international activities, we were we probably would be able to find a portion of our missing if we would have the access to the places where the people are kept on the occupied territory in Russia. Thank you, Natalia. Marina, please, she is on the screen. Marina Lepovetsky, you have 1 minute. I would like to mention that I believe and I am convinced that we're not the all people will be prosecuted who are perpetrators in war crimes and also crimes against children. And also, I would like to say that it has to be the joint mechanism with the civil organizations, with the governments of our other countries. That has to be one mechanism how to return deported children home. You know, it was a year of pain, cries, fight for our children, future of our countries. I would like to ask our leadership to attract as many as possible organizations that have some leverage on influence for communication with Russia. It's very important, as my colleagues mentioned, because all our thoughts and our wishes are practically the same. What we need proper rehabilitation for the servicemen that returned. We do need the social protection for families that are in this kind of situation when serviceman is back or when he is missing and still is looked after. I firmly believe that we will win one day and all this hell will finish because God and truth are with us. Thank you. Ksenia. I don't know, frankly speaking, to whom I would like to give my recommendation, because on one side, it has to be organized by our government, from other side, international organization taking care of this. But I heard once on some event that our international law that exists now, it's a gentleman's law. Unfortunately, our problem is that we're not dealing with gentlemen. We are witnesses of the fact that our enemy, it's a country aggressor, a criminal that doesn't really fear the punishment. So that's why international law has to be in line with the challenges that we currently have. The international law has to be amended. I don't know how it could be done, maybe some additional protocols to the Geneva Convention, but here we see fully disrespected the international law, international rules. So I hope that international organizations will pay attention to that. And finally, we will be able to prosecute this enemy. Thank you very much. We have seen powerful words here, and usually you can hear them during the international events, conferences. But why we hear them? Because we cannot be very delicate. We need they want to talk about things that they want to be implemented. Marina Lepetska said, I would like to tell our government that, she doesn't say like that. She says that I tell our government, etc. Natalia says, if this or that happens. Natalia, but you know, not if, but when it happens. That's the question. Because probably if we get to that when, we still have a lot of pain, problems, and a lot of examples we have to take from these people that are not breakable. They found the force to overcome their pain and to work for others. So now we will finish this part of our event. And with us online is the Deputy Minister of Justice of Ukraine, Mr. Andriy Haichenko. Okay, we see him.
We see that Ministry of Justice is keeping the promises. So if they said that they will be, they are. Deputy Minister, are you ready to answer the questions together with the participants of the discussion? Or maybe you would like to ask something them? Or you would love to tell something within 2 minutes to those present in the audience? I would like to say that today's topic is very acute, and it will always be pressing for the upcoming generations, because the Russian perpetrators who had already committed the crimes, or they still have the chance to do it, we were not prepared to this. None of the countries of the world faced these atrocities, and I cannot say everything, but I can say that I see a lot of atrocities, those war crimes which are being committed by the Russian perpetrators, and that's why I'm very proud of our forensic experts whom I represent today. They are really unique people. So when the military are liberating, deoccupying the territories, then our employees are coming. From the very first days of Kiev region, we started working. When there was no light or gas or water in Bucha and Irpin, and there was no means of communication. I remember those first days. We were just coming and couldn't find each other because we were not prepared. We were not prepared for these challenges. But our people, our experts, are doing fantastic work in documenting the Russian war crimes, and from the ordinary soldier to the commands which are being given by the top military leadership. So I understand that it won't be possible to bring to liability all the perpetrators, but the more we can bring to liability in the legal framework. But in fact, I would be happy if they didn't survive to the time when they will be brought to liability. So the better chances to bring them to liability is if we document the evidences of tortures, of destroyances, of the shellings, and all other inhuman behavior which were committed by the Russian perpetrators. And I'm very proud of our staff who was not prepared to this, and it was not possible to be prepared to this. From the very beginning, we had these very simple tools, the calculator and the linear. We were calculating the trajectory of the missiles, which shelling caused the fire of the petrol station, and who was the perpetrator, who was filmed by the video surveillance cameras. Thank you, Andriy. Because I have the possibility to talk a lot. I have a lot of information. Please stay with us. Maybe there will be questions to you from the audience. Goran Batic will be responsible for the mic. Please give the signs to me and to him. When you have the mic, please tell who you are. And when you're asking the question, please tell whom you're addressing the question. Or you can tell that every person can answer who is willing to answer. So what are the questions? Mr. Miller, if I noticed you properly.
Speaking to the mic. Well, thank you very much. This was extremely moving, and I think it motivates us even more. I have a question, a very simple question. Mr. Minister, I am the chairman of the board of the International Commission on Missing Persons, and we are excited about working in Ukraine, but we can't begin to work until you sign a cooperation agreement. And since it is your ministry that's responsible, I'm asking a pretty direct question. When do you think you'll be signing that cooperation agreement that will enable us to work?
I haven't seen this agreement. I would be thankful if through the authors you can send me this agreement, and we will do everything possible to analyze this agreement and to analyze our cooperation and also to have those joint efforts. So if we already have this agreement on the revision, I am ready to fasten the process. In fact, our ministry is quite a huge institution, so that's why it's possible that some delays could occur. I'm not sure who is the deputy minister responsible for these agreements. I would like to provide me with this agreement, the copy of it. So, does anyone have any other questions? Or maybe our participants are willing to add something? Natalia and then Hanna. Yeah, okay, so I would like to say to Mr. Andriy that if needed, we can bring this agreement. We are now in The Hague. We will bring it in your hands for you to have the copy. Okay, agreed. These are people of action. Any other questions? Okay, we have another question.
Thank you very much. Your testimony has been exceptionally powerful. My name is Alistair Burt. I'm the United Kingdom Commissioner on the board of the International Commission on Missing Persons. So thank you for your courage and for coming here and everything you have said. I wanted to ask specifically about the mental health situation in Ukraine, because there is a lot of public attention on events and circumstances and the conflict itself. But I would have a feeling that the impact on the mental health of families has been immense, and I'm not sure what resources you have in Ukraine to deal with these issues. Parents that have seen their boys and families taken away, older people who have been moved away from the cities that have been devastated, families in the situation that Anna has spoken of. Could one of you give a sense to people here about the needs for mental health support, in the hope that some of the states that are supporting Ukraine in many ways could begin to think about how we can provide some extra assistance for mental health support for the families who have been affected?
Thank you for the question. May I answer if you are ready? I'm ready. And then Hanna. First of all, I'm thankful to the question. And you mentioned the word conflict. But I would like to use the words war and genocide, and it will be reflecting what is going on. And it also assists that the mental health of the nation, as you are rightly saying, in a very low level. But what can we compare with? Can we deal with this? When we were analyzing this situation, we discovered that there are no analogies in the history of humanity. So the post-traumatic syndromes could be compared with the Vietnam War. But right now, the war in Ukraine is at the new level, and other crimes are being committed, and other types of mental traumas are occurring. And I know that the hundreds, dozens of psychologists are now designing the programs which would assist our people to go out of those crises, but no one understands the scale, and we will understand the scale much later. But I personally, not as the representative of the Ministry of Justice, just as a citizen, I am also collaborating with Psychological Foundation in order to design the programs of rehabilitation. And we are sending the Ukrainian wounded soldiers to have their psychological rehabilitation abroad. But it's not enough. We will have more. The other countries do not have this experience, so we will have to be the first. We have no other way out, and we will have to succeed. We do not even have the understanding of the scale. Thank you, Mr. Andriy. Before Natalia will answer this question, I will remind that those who are watching us online have the possibility to ask questions through the email ICMP int or through Twitter ICMP. Natalia, the floor is yours. Yes, we need the army of not only psychologists but also psychotherapists and psychiatrists. The best practices could be given by the US and Israel. The schools psychologists who were coming to the men, they couldn't succeed. They were coming back and crying. There was a positive example in Lviv and also the Open Doors Center, and we are communicating with Lagerta. So what my husband mentioned, that all the methods of trauma therapy is based that you are located in a safe location and you are working with your traumatizing experience. But how can you do it if your traumatizing experience is also your traumatizing future, because you will return to the combat operations? And here we have to design a methodology which will give the superpower to boost this trauma and to change the pain into action. So we are not crying. We are like a cement. I don't know what will happen further. So it's a sort of a rape to women who had 30 days to work, and then she is becoming a whore. I'm sorry for such a brutal example, but I believe that we need different approaches of working with trauma. Concerning this question, I would like to add, I did not know that the Ministry of Justice is dealing with the rehabilitation and sending the soldiers for rehabilitation. So I think that the question was about mental issues for the civilians who faced the. So my husband was 2 years in the captivity from 2015 to 2017. So in 2014, it started. These programs should have been designed since 2014. As for the military who were captured, those programs should have been designed. And unfortunately, they are not at a very high level. There are not many psychological centers who are providing psychological assistance to the liberated soldiers. I was talking to Ksenia Brysing. I know that it's crowded, that instead of 2 people, there are 3 or 4 people in the room. So they do not have enough place for the military. And for the civilians, this scale is even bigger, because these are the categories of women, children, and elderly people, and those who were raped and also had those additional stresses. So it's a great issue. So we need the assistance in the mental health for the civilians.
Thank you very much, Olena. I think there is another question here.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Stephanie Vandenberg. I'm from Reuters news agency. One of your panelists, Alexander Matviechuk, said that the missing doesn't seem to be a priority for the government, or that the government has other priorities. I wonder if the panelists agree, and I would also like to ask the minister if he feels that the missing are a priority, and if so, can he show us how? And is the legal framework that you have sufficient for it? Because I understand the enforced disappearance is not even on the books in Ukraine, so that is a problem with these women and people being recognized as victims and possibly getting reparations. So I'm wondering if we can get the input from the minister and the panel on that. Thank you.
Mr. Andriy, please, this is a question also to you. That's why. Thank you very much for this question. First of all, I would like to stress that I mentioned that in my activities with regard to rehabilitation of the military on civilians, I'm talking about not as a government representative, but as a person. So I work in the Ministry of the Justice for a certain period of time, but then I am like other people as a volunteer, 24/7, work on my private initiative, rehabilitation of civilians and military. Talking about your question, the Ministry of Health has a lot of projects, and Ministry of Justice does not take care of that. But as far as I understand, for Ministry of Health, it is one of the priorities, taking into account the volumes and new challenges. But here, I think it would be more properly to talk to them about it, my colleagues from Ministry of Health. Thank you. Any one of you, because you constantly face the legal requirements or lack of requirements, please express yourself. Currently, there is no status liberated POW, and we insist that it's legally embedded. Why? Because thus we will have the medical protocols, checks on the health of that former POW, and treatment, physical and mental. This will give us opportunity to create a culture how to dignify, behave with these people. Our society needs to be prepared for that. That's a very good thought. I would like to meet with you and talk about future of this perspective. I agree with it completely. I could be a communicator of your idea and executors by one of the members of parliament. You know, publicity and transparency. I don't think it was talked a lot about it, but I think it already is seen, because in perspective we see that something is moving forward. You know, please, Mr. Andriy, understand, the government does not have a task to hide something. No, we want to be aware of everything and to understand certain mechanism. Yes, thank you. But I would like to mention I was not the first one who mentioned that it was something to be hidden. Okay, question? More questions? Yes?
Thank you, Mr. Andriy. We have a question online. It is a general one. It says, why is it important for your organizations working on the missing persons issue to partner with specialized expert bodies such as ICMP? Thank you.
Okay, here, each of you that thinks could say something, please express yourself. Marina Lepovecka, Alexandra. For us, it's important because, first of all, you know, the girls that I work with them over a year, they are my wings, they are my support. Each and every day when we have some small victories, when our boys, our soldiers come back home, when we can find them in the captivity, I have an opinion that it's my birthday. I'm so happy about it. That's why for us it's important to unite these families, help these families, talk with them so these families understand they are not alone with their pain, problems. You know, we could be alone as a finger, but when we are 5 fingers, we can do more than with 1 finger. we are a hand. So when we are together with Natalia, Ksenia, Olena, Hanna, we can speak as one voice, and we hope someone will hear us. Marina, Alexandra, do you want to say something? Okay. Alexander. Marina, please, then me. What I want to say that it is clear we work over 20 years already, and it's our mission. We had a problem before the war about missing children, but during the war we facing the problem of deportation. No one can stand that in the 21st century, the missed generation, that in the middle of Europe we have a missed generation that we be lost for the country. So we understand there are organizations that work with missing people, civilians, children, and servicemen, but they have to work together. We had already the positive information exchange. Practically, it helped us to find the location of those children that were detained on the occupied territories. We were able even to help them. We even reached that the last week we had the adoption of the resolution of the European Parliament with our joint initiative MIHR with regard to the boy, a 16-year-old boy that is illegally detained on the Russian territory. So we have to work together to reach our common goal. Thank you, Marina. And now, Alexandra. I would like to say that for us, it is vocation. We work because we have to do that, but we are encouraged by the families because what they do under circumstances that they have to go through, it is something that is even difficult to think about. I am remembering the wife of Oleha Shevandin. He disappeared in the bus about a couple of years ago. We had a news that the Russian soldiers detained him. After that, we lost everything, information with him. So she went to the occupied Donetsk. She met with the representative of the occupational government on the highest level, alone. She did it alone. Investigation, her own investigation. So when you hear about these stories, what the mothers do, what the wives do, families do to find location of the missing and get some information, you cannot be in the back somewhere just waiting. Thank you, Alexandra. Right now, back to this room, Ksenia and then Olena. Natalka? So the question is, why do we need the assistance of the international organization to look for missing persons? We need the experience of this organization based on experience in Bosnia, Srebrenica, and also we have results of their activities in searching for missing. So we do have hope then that we can find people. We understand that not all missing will be found, but majority of the people that will searched for will be found, and the bodies will be returned to their next of kin, to their families. And we have hope that the perpetrator will be punished, because international organization, it's not an opportunity to find where the missing person is located, but also find out what kind of crimes were committed against these people, why they were detained, how they were tortured, what was done to them. So we really have high hopes. That's why we are here. It's important to have a cooperation with ICMP. And for me, in practical terms, it's important that the families are in despair when the family members want to have taken DNA. They want to be in that database of DNA, but they have to wait for 5, 6, 7 months. That's not acceptable. So what ICMP offers, the waiting time is much less, much shorter. That's why the cooperation with ICMP would be important. Otherwise, our country will be in collapse because we have so many DNA examples, but there is no possibility to work on them. Some people will be just buried under unknown because these people buried there won't have much with the DNA system because this DNA of their family members will not be in the system. This is quite complicated procedure. This is long-lasting procedure. That's why very important for us cooperation with the ICMP. So ICMP can work on the mass graves, the people who buried there, and find DNA from them. So we will be able to identify these people, and probably and registers have to have this information, because sometimes we have seen people back, but these people were buried, considered dead. So what it means that in these graves is someone else, and the next of kin does not know who is buried in that. We don't want these people to have buried someone else. We want people to find their own. That's why we don't want to see the collapse of the DNA system, and we will have a lot of unidentified corpses because their DNA of their family members were not in the system. Thank you. Of course, currently it is clear that Russia has not just attacked Ukraine. It has destroyed the existing architecture or world security. For me, the worst day in the captivity of my husband, it was a terrible act of 29th July 22, when Russia knowing that in Ukraine we have freedom-loving people. So what they did, they bombarded the rooms where the captives were located. And then the monitoring mission said that 15 of our POWs were killed. So how these 53 people and hundreds of injured were in Olenivka? So in my opinion, a lack of activities on certain international bodies are more and more. And I think it is very important to do something. We need a new architecture. We need new active bodies. And I see this in the ICMP, because even today they give us their shoulder of support. And I am personally thankful Katerina Bonander for her support. And I worked training as a sport woman for 3 years, and today I have felt a really strong handshake from the woman, a queen. Thank you very much. And you know, as a woman leader of one of the leaders of one of the countries said, Golda Meir, a person always can do something more than yesterday seemed to her impossible. And we women from steel are convinced that nothing be done more than we all together. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. So based on our schedule, we have 2 minutes. So let's wait still. If the Deputy Minister want to answer this question as well, please, Mr. Andriy. You know, maybe I didn't hear the question correctly, but the question, why do we do that? Because it's our people, it's our tragedy, it's our territory. It's these atrocities that you have to do something. It will be shame to us if we will not lead to the end, to liberate people, to help injured, and also to have prosecution of perpetrators. So how much do we need the cooperation with international organization and ICMP? Maximally needed, but I also would like not to minimize our assistance because their assistance without our work 24/7 will be less effective. But we need their assistance. And Hanna, please.
I would like to say that we have to return not the maximum people. We have to return to save everyone. Every Ukrainian should be at home, alive or unfortunately dead. We have to use the experience. War is a possibility to develop through the pain. If we have the partners who are willing to collaborate, who have the experience, and also the technical means, we should use them. That's why I do hope that the agreement which we will bring to the Ministry of Justice will be considered as soon as possible and it will start functioning because we are lacking time. The war is going on, but it's already 1.5 years and we have to search those who are still somewhere there. Thank you. And now about the applause. At the beginning of our work, I was afraid that you will be applauding after every such an example, which would have a huge impression of you. So I thought, what we'll be doing if we will be out of the agenda. But you are a very sensitive audience. You are listening very carefully. And we saw how you are feeling this with your heart, with your head. There were no applause, but right now it's the right time for the applause for those people and for you as the audience, and also for our interpreters, the conference interpreters. So we are remaining here, or we are willing to applaud to the audience. Enough. Thank you so much. Because right now on the stage we will have the change of decoration. Horan knows what will be happening. So we are staying on the stage.
Dear friends, I'm Maria Eugenia Brizuela de Avila. I am an ICMP commissioner, and I have been asked to give concluding remarks, but my heart is simply in my hands. It is so touching and so moving, but also so empowering to follow these beautiful ladies. What we have heard from Natalia, Anna, Olena, Senia, Marina, Alexandra, and Hanna reflects an approach to the issue of missing persons that is being seen all around the world. Families that are fighting for justice, for truth, and for the right for reparations. So along the way, we see remarkable instances of solidarity, of courage, and of resolve. These families and human rights defenders are not going to give up. They represent a powerful force, a force that is applied to very specific and well-chosen objectives. And that is the key to progress over the long term. In Ukraine, the authorities have stated a serious will to work together with families to address the issue. And this is hugely important. Where the authorities work with families, progress can be made quickly and effective measures can be sustained. I believe that we can come away from this discussion with a sense of optimism, that key problems have been identified and realistic solutions have been proposed, that a huge amount of work must be done now, but we're not working in the dark. We have a clear idea of the steps that have to be taken, and I believe increasingly that we have the resources to take these steps forward and that the commitment is there to developing the partnerships that will enable us to carry the work forward just by the presence of so many of you here in this room and online. So let me conclude by thanking all of those who have taken part in the discussion here in The Hague and online, that we will together continue the work and in the end, as you stated, we can be sure that truth and justice will prevail. God is with us. Thank you.
I want to say so much, but thank you for your courage, for your amazing stories, and for sharing this with everyone. It's been profound, I think, for all of us. And for the minister that was here, I think the important message from all of us in this room, as international commissioners, as international organizations, as members of the government, and families of the missing, is that we must work together. None of us on our own can do this. This war is overwhelming. Over 30,000 people are already missing, and the numbers continue to grow. There is no way that one nation on its own can do this, while it's also fighting this war. It's impossible. And the war is not only on the ground, there is a war of misinformation that also must be fought. And that's where we can lend a helping hand as well, to provide the truth, to help to provide justice, and help provide reparations, to be there with you, to be on this journey with you, and to be your partner. So thank you for sharing your stories with us. They were very powerful, very moving, and I know it took a lot of courage. I know you've been practicing. I know this has been difficult, so I don't think many people here appreciate how difficult this was. This took a lot of time and effort to get to this point where you could do this, because it's really emotional, without crying, without tears this time, and it's been very hard for us to work on this together. But thank you so much, and thank you, Andre, for doing an amazing job also moderating this very difficult discussion, which I think was very lively, and for the questions and answers outside. I want to thank our commissioners also for participating in this, including our chair and Ambassador Rapp. I don't know where he went. And of course, our staff, who have been absolutely amazing, not only working with families of the missing, but setting this all up. We do this all on our own. It's been everyone pulling forces together, all of our colleagues here. I want to thank the Ukrainian embassy also, and I have to say in particular, Miroslava as well, because she's kind of a friend, and we work with her very closely. So thank you to all of you. We will have a little bit of music right now. I'm not sure where the musician is. Oh, here you are. Okay. And maybe you can introduce yourself, and then we will break for a reception. I know it's getting late, and it's quite hot in here. But once again, thank you.
Yeah, and because we have... Because we want to be in an adequate position with the rest of the audience, we are moving to the spectators' rows.
To perform a song, which is a traditional Ukrainian song called "Під яблунькою," Under the Apple Tree. I know there are lots of Ukrainians, so you can totally follow the text, but I thought it's good to translate it for the non-Ukrainian speaking. It's a song about two beautiful doves that lived under a beautiful apple tree in peace, in harmony, loving each other. But then one day, a dark crow came from a dark cloud and killed a male dove. He offered the female dove all the wheat and water, but she wouldn't drink, she wouldn't eat. She would just go back to the apple tree and cry there. And then he says, "You silly female dove, what's the problem with you? I have the whole pigeon house for you. Go choose whoever you like." But she answers, "There will never be another dove like the one that I lost. The one who has beautiful gray wings. The one who has the most sincere words. There will never be another one like the one that I lost." Під яблунькою солоденькою сидів голубець з голубонькою. Як летів ворон з чорної хмари, забив голуба, немає й пари. Поставив пити з моря водиці, поставив їсти він пшенице. Голубка не їсть, голубка й не п'є, під ту яблуньку заплакати йде. Як летів ворон із чужих сторон, нагнав голубів повнесенький двір, нагнав голубів повнесенький двір. Лети, вибирай, котресенький твій. Голуба, та й тут, та й нема в голубця сизі крильця. В мого милого сизі крильця, в мого голуба щирі слівця. Мій голуб білий, та й що сизокрилий, нема такого, як був мій милий. The second and the last song I will perform for you today is a song called Чорнобривці, which I'm sure many Ukrainians know. And Чорнобривці in translation means marigolds, the type of flower that, according to the song, my mother used to plant in the garden. And while she was planting them, she taught me to sing all the beautiful spring carols. She shared her hopes and for the future. And every time since then, when I look at this flower, I recall my mom and her aging hands and her dreams. I have seen the separation and returns, and I believe that beauty will come back to Ukraine.
Чорнобривців насіяла мати у моїм світанковім краю, та й навчила веснянки співати про квітучу надію свою, як на ті чорнобривці погляну, бачу матір стареньку, бачу руки твої, моя мамо, твою ласку я чую, рідненька. Я розлуки і зустрічі знаю, бачив я у чужій стороні. Чорнобривців із рідного краю, що насіяла ти навесні, як на ті чорнобривці погляну, бачу матір стареньку, бачу руки твої, моя мамо, твою ласку я чую, рідненька. Повертаю до нашого поля із далеких країв журавлі, розцвітають ці квіти і доля на моїй українській землі, як на ті чорнобривці погляну, бачу матір стареньку, бачу руки твої, моя мамо, твою ласку я чую, рідненька, як на ті чорнобривці погляну, бачу матір стареньку, бачу руки твої, моя мамо, твою ласку я чую, рідненька. Слава Україні!
I don't think there's a dry eye left in the house. I'd like to invite you now. We have a reception for you all. I'd like to invite you to partake. But again, thank you for this evening, and thank you for this beautiful end to a very emotional discussion. And thank you again to our panelists and to everyone that joined us tonight, both here physically in the room and online. And thank you also to the Deputy Minister of Justice. We'll be seeing you soon. Thank you.